Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something we all do, usually without even realizing it. We are going to explore the fascinating and often entirely subconscious psychological forces that dictate our everyday buying habits. We're unpacking the textbook foundations of consumer behavior to show you exactly why you buy what you buy.
I want you to pause and think about your own habits for a second. When you're standing there in the store aisle, why do you, personally, reach for that premium brand instead of the perfectly functional budget alternative sitting right next to it? Is it really just about the quality, or is there something much deeper driving that choice? And let's take that a step further. Consider your long-term habits. Why do people stay fiercely loyal to one specific brand for years, literally decades sometimes, even when cheaper alternatives are constantly thrown in their faces? Well, spoiler alert, it's rarely just about the product itself. The real answers are deeply embedded in our psychology.
So, to decode this mystery, here is our roadmap for today. First, the psychology of buying. Next, self-concept and identity. Then, the dynamics of perception. After that, how consumers learn. And finally, mastering consumer behavior.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the psychology of buying. Look, the absolute foundational rule here is that every single consumer is completely unique. And this uniqueness isn't just determined by your standard demographics like age or income, it is heavily dictated by deep-seated psychological characteristics. Picture two 30-year-old guys with the exact same salary. One goes out and drops $1,000 on a leather motorcycle jacket because he craves adventure, while the other buys a sensible, cozy fleece for comfort. Same demographics, totally different mindsets. It's not a spreadsheet driving the market, it's the human mind.
Moving on to part two, self-concept and identity.
So, what exactly is self-concept? Well, it's basically the foundational image you hold of yourself. It includes your beliefs, your feelings, your opinions, the whole shebang of who you think you are. And the golden rule in consumer behavior is that we naturally gravitate toward products that match this exact self-image. If a brand aligns perfectly with how you see yourself, you are far, far more likely to buy it.
Now, it's not just one single flat image. Researchers actually break self-concept down into 4 distinct dimensions. First up, you've got your actual self, who you are right now. Then your ideal self, the person you really wish you were. Then there's the social self, how you believe everyone else sees you. And lastly, the ideal social self, how you desperately want others to perceive you. Think about buying a really flashy luxury watch just so people assume you're crushing it financially. Marketers are incredibly skilled at positioning products to appeal directly to one or more of these specific versions of your identity.
There is a massive, almost magnetic tension between that actual self and your ideal self. We constantly buy things trying to bridge the gap between who we are today and who we want to be tomorrow. Honestly, it's the exact reason we buy those expensive yoga mats and then only use them once. This human desire for self-improvement drives massive global industries: personal grooming, fitness, fashion, you name it. When an ad speaks directly to your ideal self, it is incredibly motivating.
But wait, our identity doesn't just stop at our physical bodies. We also have this thing called the extended self. Basically, we regard certain possessions, like our house, our car, or the smartphone we're practically glued to, as literal extensions of our identity. And with everything going digital, we now have a virtual self too. Your social media profiles, digital avatars, and professional networking pages are now core components of who you are. Digital products increasingly target this virtual identity, making your online persona a major consumer in its own right.
All right, shifting gears to part 3, the dynamics of perception.
Every single day, you are bombarded with an enormous amount of information, but obviously, you don't process all of it. Perception is basically how you select, organize, and interpret that external noise to make sense of the world. Now, here's a huge pitfall for students studying this: confusing sensation with perception. The golden rule to remember is this: your senses receive, but your mind interprets. Sensation is just the raw data. Perception is the actual meaning you assign to it.
Let's break that down further. Step 1 is sensation. That's just the immediate response of your sensory organs, like your eyes or ears, to a stimulus. But for you to even notice that stimulus, it has to cross a line called the absolute threshold. This is the bare minimum level of stimulation required for a person to detect that something is even there. If the text on a highway billboard is too tiny to read at 60 miles an hour, it doesn't cross your absolute threshold. To the consumer, it essentially doesn't exist.
Now, here is where it gets incredibly strategic for marketers.
Enter the differential threshold, also known in the biz as the just noticeable difference, or JND. This is the absolute minimum difference between two stimuli that you can actually detect. Marketers use the JND as an insider secret when they want to tweak packaging, subtly reduce the quantity of a product, or shift prices without causing alarm or losing their loyal customers.
For example, think about a sale at the grocery store. A tiny price drop might fly completely under the radar. If that discount falls below your differential threshold, you won't even notice, which means the company just threw away profit for absolutely nothing. On the flip side, if a company wants to shrink a candy bar slightly to save on costs, that sneaky tactic we now call shrinkflation, they will ensure the size reduction remains just below your just noticeable difference so nobody realizes they're getting less chocolate.
This whole dynamic process can be easily tracked using a handy little memory trick, SPI. S stands for selection. We only filter in a tiny fraction of the info out there based on what we actually need. Then P for perceptual organization. Our brains love patterns, so we organize that info into something meaningful. And finally, I for interpretation. We assign our own personal meaning to those patterns. Because we all have unique life experiences, two people can interpret the exact same commercial in completely opposite ways.
Moving right along to part 4, how consumers learn.
When we talk about learning in consumer psychology, we're not talking about sitting in a classroom taking notes. We're talking about a relatively permanent change in your behavior that comes directly from experience. You learn by testing out products, watching your friends, or scrolling through online reviews. And this continuous, lifelong process heavily influences basically every purchase decision you'll ever make.
You can map out this learning loop using another great trick, DCR. It all kicks off with a drive, that internal itch or motivation, like suddenly realizing you're starving. Then you get a cue, a stimulus in the environment, like seeing a massive, glowing billboard for a burger joint. That prompts a response, your actual reaction, which is pulling the car over to buy said burger. And wrapping it up is reinforcement. If that burger tastes absolutely amazing, that positive experience reinforces your behavior, pretty much guaranteeing you'll be back the next time you feel that drive.
Now, marketers don't just hope for reinforcement, they actively engineer it, using 3 major behavioral learning theories. First, you've got Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning, learning by association. Brands pair their products with killer music or stunning visuals, so you automatically associate those good vibes with them. Second is B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning, learning through rewards. Think loyalty programs or cashback offers that literally condition you to keep swiping your card. And third is Albert Bandura's observational learning. We learn by watching others. This is exactly why celebrity endorsements and influencers are everywhere. We watch people we admire using a product, and we instinctively want to copy them.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, Mastering Consumer Behavior.
When we zoom all the way out, it's actually amazing to see how perfectly these psychological gears interlock. Your self-concept dictates what you even care about in the first place. That naturally feeds right into your perception, acting as a filter for all the marketing noise coming at you. How you perceive those messages and experience the products then drives your learning. And finally, that learning locks in your future purchase decisions. It's a continuous, self-reinforcing loop.
Which leads us to the ultimate, big-picture takeaway for this explainer. The most successful marketers on the planet understand one profound truth. Consumers don't just buy products. They buy products that fit their identity, match their perceptions, and reinforce positive experiences. We don't just buy stuff. We buy items that become a part of who we are, validating our worldview and ultimately making us feel good.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. The very next time you're about to tap your card or click Buy Now, just take a brief pause. Based on your own self-concept and your past experiences, what invisible psychological forces are actually dictating that purchase? Are you buying for the person you are right now or the person you're trying to become? The more you understand your own mind, the more fascinating the whole world of consumer behavior gets. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.